Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Welcome to EDDIE-FICATION, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses EDDIE-FICATION to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through EDDIE-FICATION, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper healthcare and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks, wonderful. And welcome. And for those of you who I have not greeted yet, I want to wish you a happy New Year and let you know, feel the vibes. This year is going to be a great one. But of course, you give life to the language you speak. So remember, let's make this year a very good one. So welcome, goodly folks, on this, the 14th day of the new year, 2024, as we seek to settle down, having reached one day shy of the midpoint of January 2024. Could you imagine? It was just All Year's Night, almost. It seems like yesterday, but look at it. We're 14 days into the new year already. So let's continue to rebuke all the out-of-timing things, circumstances, frequencies, and even energies that our enemies plot for us. Let us sideline all negative associations through the several wrong people that we have been hanging with who are keeping us down and pulling us back. Let us remind ourselves that this being our 200th edition of EDDIE-FICATION is a sign of encouragement that all our hard work and dedication will be fully rewarded. Let us welcome the abundance of success and wealth that is coming our way, provided we seek to find what we love and keep doing what we love and stay true to our higher purpose. The universe is reminding us all, folks, to stay focused, stay confident, and be persistent on our path. There is something about this year that feels great, and we must convert that feeling with the right supportive action in order to make it make sense to us all, so that we can stand in our purpose. As we take on this new year, we have to remember to reposition ourselves with better and more positive associations. Seek to distinguish the pushers from the pullers in your life, and always gravitate towards the pushers. You are pushers. You have to understand that pushers in your life are the ones that, of course, give you that lift forward and up with their encouragement and genuine efforts to help you to realize your potential. Pullers, on the other hand, Grenada, our environment is overloaded with pullers. Our topic today is circumstance does not change responsibility. Stop making excuses. Just make an apology now. You reached late to work this morning. Sorry, I reached late this morning. I was rubbish. Take responsibility, because you know you sleep with your cell phone on the bed. You know that you were LOLing and supping way into the morning. And of course, you overslept. Take responsibility. In other words, apologize and move on, because you know what caused you to be late, but you're making up some kind of lame excuse. When you do that, what happens? Excuse, another excuse, and you keep going around in circles. That is why you end up bad talking people who are making it in life, because they take responsibility. They don't make excuses, you see? So you must make apologies that you mean, instead of contriving some lame excuse to justify your wrong action and thus keep you in the unwelcomed circumstance. People will move in and out of your life, folks. And if you depend on them to save you, then you will be disappointed. Some people, good people that is, may help you along the way. But never forget that no one is coming to save you, really. Even these good ones who help or helped you, ultimately, you are responsible for your own success in life. You must take personal responsibility. You cannot change the circumstances. You cannot change the seasons. You cannot change the wind. But you can change yourself. That is something you have charge of. So only take the circumstance that you have charge of and turn it around in your favor. There is nothing here that's broken that can't be fixed. But it won't happen on its own. I could tell you that for sure. You see, many of us are programmed to focus on what's wrong instead of standing in the gap after establishing what's wrong to become part of the solution. We all should have pondered on today's topic to recognize that indeed circumstance does not change responsibility. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have been socialized by a single parent mother who was no joker when it came to wanting something good to come out of her children. She certainly cannot be faulted for being vigilant and sticking to the only way she knew how back then. And we did not fall through the cracks, thank God for that. Her 5 children, 3 of whom are alive today, have a lot to be thankful for, as she was genuine in her quest for us to do better than we met her doing. That is the responsibility of a parent. If only our parents of today will actually admonish their children to lift their nose as our mother used to tell us, in order to make her proud, we would be certain to have less of them falling through the cracks and settling for the crumbs of life. You see, too many of our youthful population move on to the great beyond, and just like they never existed, as they were never socialized to challenge themselves and do something new so they can leave their mark on this one life that they were given. You see, if we sit back and really take stock of our lives, and while being able to recall all the negative memories, we will never be happy with how we live. Look at Wayne Louison of Bailey's Funeral Home, who passed on fairly suddenly to us as the news broke. Because he lived a life of purpose, he was able to garner goodwill in the eyes of so many that we all felt the jerk in our souls at his loss. He was standing in his purpose, touching lives and being a part of the perfect tribute any family can afford, while he served grieving families at Bailey's Funeral Home. Wayne always put himself out to help ease the burden of every, family whose funeral he directed or assisted in directing. He was such a gentle giant, steeped in simplicity, and he knew his place. How many of you will be remembered in this way when you pass on sooner or later? You can change the course of your life that you run right now by unkeying yourselves and not following that old clung of a nastiness while making fools of yourselves. Get up, go out, and find your purpose and stand in it. I have always told this to many people in my training sessions. Too many of us live life as if it was secret. We showed up in this life to make a difference and make things a lot more improved than we met them. You see, Julian Fedon came and was different. T. Albert Marichaux came and was different. Eric Gary came and was very, very different. Maurice Bishop came and he was different. Bernard God came and has been different. Deacon Mitchell came and took Grenada by storm because he has been different, always succeeding in whatever area or areas he elects to be involved in. You see, what makes you stand out in your life? Your ability to stand in your purpose. When I finally die, you're going to hear all sorts of comments reflective of the perceptions people had of me. They all, whether favorable or unfavorable, will represent their memory, which I am sure my boldness over the years and my daring would have ignited. You see, it's either you're hot or you're cold with me. There's no in between. It's either you like me or you don't. And I'm contented that the same thing people don't like me for is the same very thing that others love me to death for. So I just continue to be me. You see, I know I am polarizing, a polarizing figure in Grenada, and could not be bothered one way or other. And so the half of Grenada that does not like me would know who died. And so too would the other half who loved me for the same reason the other half did not. You see, what I do know is that the entire nation would know I died because they knew I lived. I was never in a corner practicing to be forgotten after death. I was always engaged in doing something that can impact the life of someone, the lives of, whether it is 2 people, 3 people, it doesn't matter. You see, whether they knew it or after the fact, they have been impacted. You see, what about you folks? What role are you playing to help uplift others? Stop the practice of using unsuspecting and underprivileged people on whose shoulders you continue to stand to look like if you were tall without having any good intention for them. Stop taking advantage of others' ignorance to continue to fill their heads with nonsense just because you are moaning and groaning at your personal loss while the state breathes a sigh of relief that the parasites are no more. And that is where we have to keep them, no more. You see, circumstance does not change responsibility. Stop making excuses and just make an apology, one that you mean, instead of contriving some lame excuse to justify your wrong action and thus keep you in the unwelcome circumstance. Let's take a little break here, folks, and we'll come back with more, because I have some very, very revealing facts here today to share with you a little later on in the program, but we're building up, of course, and every segment of edification is usually a powerful segment. So hold down your umbrellas, folks. It's going to be a marathon today.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all. Eddie Frederick.
You know, folks, I am so happy and delighted to see my good Paliwali Sawandi. I always, when I get this little break, I always look to see if he's there right up in the top. I want to see that he's there. I'm so happy. Akim, welcome. Judy, Nikal, lovely Mac, Bernadette, oh man, Marlon, y'all are so wonderful. Thank you for joining. And for those of you who just joined and maybe just joining for the first time, hit that share button and let's get some more people in the room, because we have a lot of pearls of wisdom to share here today, edifying pearls of wisdom. So welcome back. Folks, when I say, I noticed that there are lots of lovely little things going on. Of course, there's this cleanup this weekend that is taking place or has been taking place at the St. David constituency, and I believe others too, which is just marvelous. It shows, folks, we have a maroon spirit in us that the old nastiness killed, because everything he felt he needed to pay for, and killed the maroon spirit in our people. Because in truth and in fact, a lot of the things that you see that people are calling money for should be done by communities, should be done by we ourselves. We have communities that are coming together, raising funds to do things. Look at Monkmaris. Monkmaris is a model community when it comes to their monthly breakfast, which their community grouping up there would be raising funds to do things for the community. Folks, come on. They're not beasts. Go talk to them. Go see how it is done and take a pattern off of them, because that makes a community a place that people want to live in, want to bring up their children in, because community is supposed to spread love, spread togetherness, spread that sharing, caring, and daring with each other. So when I say what I say about my generation, folks, many of whom are clinging on to play catch up due to their own negligence over the years, because they were never wise with their time on earth, a lot of them get very upset. Young people, listen to me carefully. Pull up your goddamn chair, because I am on your side. I will always be on your side. Assert yourselves and come and get what is yours. Do not remain in the back for fear that all the losers will further cement themselves in leadership of every ambit of society and continue to squeeze you out. They are irrelevant. They have contributed to where we are right now, which is nowhere desirable. So assert your goddamn selves. Rise up and take your rightful positions. Come up to the front and take your rightful places. I have been working with quite a number of young people on an individual basis, and I can tell you that I'm very satisfied where they are in their personal lives. Oh God, folks, they're making progress. My just over 20 mentees are doing well and very much on their way. They have grown and continue to grow as long as they are prepared to receive in the frank manner in which I deliver my guidance, devoid of their egos getting in their way. They will go far in life. My humble advice to them is to come good when they surrender themselves to me, or don't come at all, because I don't tolerate nonsense. I have no time for stupidness. If you're serious, come. You're not serious, pass me straight. I was listening to this Indian guru who differentiated growth, progress, and success as follows. If you increase your turnover of your business from 500 to 5,000 to 50,000, that is growth. Increasing your material possessions in all ways is your growth. That growth, if it is assisted and aided by ethics. But what are ethics? Discipline, honesty, norms. This is called progress. So growth plus ethics is progress. That progress plus humanity, morality, and spirituality is called success. Success is a moving target, folks, in that it is not a destination to arrive at and relax, in as much as it is a continuous journey. You see, whenever you are successful in achieving something, you need to maintain that thing. You ought to create in you a desire to work at a different level to see to it that you never lose it. You see, the same energy that is required to seek and find something is definitely not the same energy of, that is required, the same level of energy required to maintain it. I always tell my 5-diamond family at Spice Island Beach Resort, the same energy you use to secure and get your 5-diamond status is definitely not the same level of energy you are going to be required to exert to maintain it and to keep it. So study your head. You have to turn it up. Folks, a fake life is very expensive. I am sure loads of people in our midst are beginning to realize this. When you hear people talking about having stress and feeling all stressed out and complaining about their salary levels and how they can't afford this, that, and the other on the little bit of money they work for, you know they are on the path to wanting to fund a fake life. And reality visits with them and takes up permanent residence in context of their affordability. It is important not to start any fake life, because once you start, you are expected to maintain it. This puts you in a perpetual downward spiral with your mental health. If you are not at the level that you want to be at, you're not there. Be prepared to start gradually with dignity and integrity as your underpinnings. Young people, don't try to buy a vehicle or live in a house that you are not at the level for yet. Some of you are out here with all sorts of social media profiles, making you look like you are doing great, but your rent is way behind. Some of you are posting to show that you're in every $100+ fete and you are eating crackers and drinking Fanta. Some of you are all dressed up for every occasion and you can't pay the store that you took the stuff on balance parcel from. Stop forcing a line. You put in too much pressure on yourself. You helping your life expectancy to be lower than the 10. Retool and come again. Replace the car with that one that you can afford, because they are all different levels of vehicles. Isn't that interesting? Stop forcing this line, folks. Go out and stop big timing. That place that you're living in that you cannot afford or rent or the rent for or the mortgage for. Get one, your real level. Just make it clean and nice. Less stress awaits you by living in your reality while you dream and do what you must to level up and evolve properly. Take your time. Rome wasn't built in a day. You see, people like me, and God knows we have several of them around, who came from abject poverty and had the mind to make a better life, did not just wake up one day and found ourselves where we are currently. No, no. We developed a mindset that made us dangerous as hell. In fact, I believe I'm even more dangerous today. You could imagine somebody bringing something for me and I looking at the person straight in the eye and telling them, oh, thank you very much, but no thanks. And the person is aghast. What do you mean? I said, yes, based on what I do and I knowing people and their high level of hypocrisy, I really can't receive that from you, especially something to eat. I'm not too sure that I should. So thank you very much. Let's just be cordial with each other. You know what? That's a dangerous level of freedom, folks, to operate at. That you could watch somebody in their cocoge and tell them that. And of course, I can. And I have up to recently done that. Somebody asked me about going to church this morning. I said, no, don't ask me that again. I don't go to church and I'm not going. So don't waste your time to ask me that. What? I said, yes, because you're going to mama guy yourself. Look how you dress up like a clown. The person look like a clown. You get the message? Hello? Just leave me alone when you see me. I tell you, come good or don't come at all. You see, people like me, I have a larger vision of who I am. I'm confident as all hell. I could go to a restaurant and sit and eat on my own. That's a dangerous level of freedom and independence to operate from, folks. You see, giving up for us will make us weak. We will win no matter the challenges. The only person who can beat us is we ourselves. Depression is just a mindset for the weak. You see, when we fall, we will always get back up. As we inch closer to observing our 50th anniversary of national independence, we must focus on the main ingredient that has been missing over the years. I have been an advocate for this as part of my public outcry for years. We are seeing the disbenefit our nation has been steeped in for all of the 50 years just because we gravitated towards a group of goons led by an old nastiness in power over our affairs for so goddamn long. Totally devoid of vision, totally removed from ever wanting to develop our people genuinely. You see, for a people to be truly independent, they must be exposed to a truly independent education system. If they are not dependent on other people's education system, they will be dependent on other people's information. When other people feed into other people's information, what happens to them? They become dependent. And the other people will always dominate them because they are reading the other people's script. Education, therefore, has but one honorable purpose: to teach and instruct properly the student, all of us, to be proper handlers of power. That is precisely why, now that we have a proper leader of a government that is focused on real people development, we need to cooperate with them so their vision for us will lead us to the promised land of our true north. This colonial system of independence that never changed from day one on 7th February 1974, which continued until now, must be dumped. We have to develop our own education system that is suited to our model of development. Our education must be focused on the ever-evolving modern agricultural methods, modern anthropological studies that contribute to us knowing ourselves, our origin, and where we ought to go in the evolutionary scheme of things, so that we can become more confident, ready to take on the world and succeed with our tourism industry, ready for the creative industry, so we can carve out our place in technology and all that is connected therewith, increasing our place and our knowledge, in things culinary, especially as we have been known to be great cooks of wonderful cuisine. You see, folks, and all the things that make us ready to carve out our niche in our geographic space, so we can stand shoulder to shoulder and even stand out among our equals in the region. Folks, the many of us who know better and want better for our people, especially as we are a youthful population, must stand firmly in the gap to push back all those who would resist meaningful developmental change for our people. Of course, many from 1995 to 2022, for the most part, who will make noise while in the working arena. We are likely to hear workers who are easily irritated to mischief, bad behavior, and low to no productivity call on their legal aid to help them protect their rights. So while the country goes to hell in a handbasket, their rights are protected. We have to tell them what time it is, because we want to change, and we want that change that we deserve as a 50-year-old nation. And if we keep on doing what we're doing, we will keep on getting what we're getting. And this travel pauperized kind of culture that we have supported over the last 1995 to 2022, for the most part, period, that has got to go. The decrepit leaders, starting with, of course, the old nastiness, is no more. Change has come. I have told you before that in order for you to experience a different frequency in your life, you have to be mindful of your language. When you are asked, how are you? If you continue to reply, are they? Not bad, so-so, poke, you will realize that you will continue to be that way. Nothing will improve in your life when you use defeating language about yourself. Nothing. What are some of the things you have right now to be grateful for? If it rained last night, where you slept, did you get wet? If the answer is no, then you have one thing that I'm sure puts you in a much better position than somebody else. If you can still eat 2 to 3 square meals a day, this is another thing to be grateful for, because there are others who can't even get one. Are you of sound mind? Do you have running water in your place of residence? If you have children and they did not have to go to school hungry or dirty, you are blessed. So when you are asked, how are you? You are not qualified to under-express your gratefulness. When we were growing up, I remember my mother telling people when she was asked, how was she? Poke, no beef. Just in a kind of nonchalant kind of manner. And I asked her what that meant. Poke, no beef. What I mean? And she told me, she explained it to me by telling me of a cut of pork. Good. The lean was like beef, while the fat part is what you either cut off and throw, or you use for lubrication to prevent the pork stew from drying down and easily burning to cinders. Then she said, life can be like that sometimes. More fat, less affordability of conveniences. Than lean, more comfort. Hence the saying, poke, no beef. When I finally understood that, folks, all that was enough to convince me to do what I had to do to make her proud indeed, as I did not want to dwell in that pork, no beef situation all the days of my life too. You see, with God's grace, I am able to change that thus far and enjoy a truly higher standard of living and quality of life than many among us. So I am blessed. Folks, it all starts with ambition, which must be supported by discipline and continuous drive. So today, with all the evermore consciousness I am blessed with, I can tell you when asked how I am, how are you, Eddie, that I am above ground and loving it. I am so well, I'm embarrassed. I'm so busy succeeding and watching every step of my journey. When you're asked, how is life? You must respond, it's too good. I feel for my enemies. You might still be broke, but people want what you have. What do you have? A positive disposition, because you vibrate at a higher frequency. You see, many of you are just day and poor in every aspect of the word because you're aligned with poor stuff. You either don't read at all or you read nonsense. You look at poor nonsense on television and online. You scroll too much on Instagram looking at crap, and you get caught up being jealous of other people's fake projections and profiles. You are friends with people whose mental construct promote poverty of the mind and which manifests itself in their very lives. You are poor because you choose to be poor, regardless of whether you want to take responsibility or not. You see, once your mindset changes, folks, you will naturally gravitate to different environments and circles. Some of you are too consumed with mischief that you become so absorbed, in your hate and disgust for others, that you have to hide behind fake profiles to attack them in your quest to pull them into your big old drain, which is your choice of location to operate from and will be your residence until you seriously decide to change your address. You see, sensible people who are committed to get out of poverty are usually busy trying to get better at their craft. They are positioning themselves for more education, understanding that education is the pathway to independence and thus a better standard of living and quality of life. Sensible people do not get stuck following sore losers whose time is over and joins them and their continued disbelief that they ain't coming back. You all are far too smart to be the only thing standing in your way, folks. Stop allowing others to give up on you just because you are your own most powerful enemy, always working against yourself, volunteering to be in the losing club. Circumstance does not change responsibility. Stop making excuses. Make an apology and move on. One that you mean, instead of contriving some lame excuse to justify your wrong action and thus keep you in the unwelcome circumstance. I promised you we have a lot more coming, folks. Stay tuned. Keep the comments coming, folks. Keep the share. Hit the share button. Let's get some more people in because this is too good to waste. Let's get some more people in, but let's take a little break, a much needed break so I can clear my throat and what have you. Cheers.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the country cold store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, country cold store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cool Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful. Wonderful, folks. Of course, as I said, we have a lot more coming up here. I want to thank those of you who are just joining. I see Roxy saying she's sorry to be late. Well, Roxy, you need to stand on the chair and stay in the back, because I don't know what your excuse is for being late. But instead, no excuses are permitted today. We're taking apologies because we want you to take responsibility. All right, yeah? Bless your heart. Seriously, welcome back, folks. Many of us will do well to know that a snake usually entices you and then fast for the kill. Beware of anyone, folks, who can afford it and never uses his own resources to be kind to you. Always the states or sending you down the road by an affiliate of the state and dirtying up, nastying up that entity with incompetence and incapacitated individuals posing as employees who cannot do anything, or if they can, making sure they don't do anything at all. Our public service is like that today. Once you discover that the only reason why you were being granted any favor is to win your soul for the vote farm while keeping you poor and vulnerable, you should realize that awareness becomes your light in any room of dark intentions. Split from them and never to return again, as your very awareness is what ought to fuel you to the freedom that belongs to you. Stay away from anyone, whether the old nastiness or otherwise, whose kindness has strings attached to it. Failure to stay away will render you the loser for it, trust me. Become someone who will be committed to not being anyone who will hang around anyone who stresses you out, who drains you, who leeches on you for their own satisfaction. Life presents you with choices, and whether you have to choose between you and anyone else, whenever you have that opportunity to make that choice, please, please, please choose you. When you were born until you were around 20, somebody takes care of you. When you reach 60 and above, if you're lucky, somebody is likely to be taking care of you too. So you only have between 20 and 60, which is 40 years to really live life, folks. You see why I am the way I am? Because I'm aware of the good stuff that really matter. All the drained people that can't match wits and intelligence with people like me. Stop wasting among your time responding from the gutter now. Use that time instead, valuable time, building your consciousness, improving your capacity and competencies to come out of the gutter and enjoy a similar standard of living and quality of life to mine and people like me. Anyone you hear going out of their way to encourage the Deacon Mitchell administration to pay any faithful worker who allow themselves to be duped by anyone whom their maximum leader referred to as a thief that he or she cannot trust must be treated as a public enemy. The humble workers must be directed to the source of their faith and not the state. So, whether this be any trade unionist who may like to use every opportunity to diss the Deacon Mitchell administration because of their inherent hate for him, must be treated as an enemy of the state and an enemy of progress. When bogus siphoning of the state's resources was going on, those same people had absolutely nothing to say. Remember that? Now the corporate lawyer who has the record for beating them left, right, and center in our courts on industrial issues and matters has become our duly elected prime minister and heads a government that has been doing nothing but delivering on its promises to the workers of this country and the general population, I dare say. They can be seen among the drizzle of dissent among us, always coming up with things that don't make any sense, as if they are scraping the bottom of the pan to see if they can get anything to make noise about. All past faithful employees must go to their principal employer for their money. They had too much faith in that PAF organization, whose operators were the true beneficiaries, while they, the ordinary workers, were nickeled and dimed with no promise of added benefits. Our people have become so accustomed to thieving that it has become normal for them, and so they no longer know the difference between right and wrong. Hence, at all levels, we find people defending the indefensible. I am glad to see the consistency in our Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, to constantly dismiss and ignore the old nastiness and all other detractors. There are lots of things the opposition does not believe. There are lots of things the old nastiness does not believe too. He and all his misguided followers can't believe they're in opposition. Boy, that response is so bloody dismissive. Folks, I warned you already. Circumstance does not change responsibility. Let's take another break and we come back for the kill.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. As I said, we have some areas to cover yet, but it's going to be an extended version again. People have been asking for it, and I just find myself when I'm compiling to deliver, I just can't stop. You know, the thoughts keep flowing, and when they keep flowing, you've got to keep giving them and giving them and giving them. Just let them flow. Welcome back, folks. And for those of you just joining for the first time, you're late. Well, welcome. hit that share button. Welcome. You see, we who have eyes to see and ears to hear have seen and heard one of the sore losers attempting to tell this nation that the National Nasty Party, the NNP, is carded to stage their convention this year, and that all leadership positions will be up for the taking. Like with everything else, with that inferior and dishonest grouping, we have to believe this when we see it, as one has been due for some time now, and as long as the current holder or leader has his will, he will do everything to choreograph his exit from the local political stage, so what goes around does not come back around in his tail. That was a curse or spell wished on him by the man he deceitfully dethroned as leader of the original New National Party back in 1989, which was at the time headed by the nondescript Herbert Blaise, that very few of us in Grenada remember was ever a Prime Minister of Grenada. Our circumstance will never change our responsibility to ourselves as this nation that we say we are, to see to it that this old nastiness does not ever see the light of day to ever return near the precincts of national power over our affairs ever again. It's been an abysmal failure. You see, during the 2008 to 2013 period of governance of this nation's affairs, the National Democratic Congress administration, prime ministered by the gentleman Tillman Thomas, who sits today as Governor General's deputy. That period was infused by a mad rush for successor prominence between Prime Minister Thomas's two perceived lieutenants. Folks, the amount of intrigue, subterfuge, counter-subterfuge, with matching degrees of deceit and guile that followed, saw the demise of the administration to the point where, when the 2013 general elections came, it yielded a return to 15-0, which I and all thought was well-deserved when one considered the slackness that was allowed to happen in the absence of more strategically timed, appropriate action to break that up early and done with. The procrastination of the then leader to take decisive action because of his forgiving nature had its consequences, too severe for any of us to ever forget. The nation had its time to exhale when we all witnessed the open arms with which one of the two perceived lieutenants was to be welcomed into the fold of those on the other side, headed by that old nastiness. You see, when the ego was smashed by expulsion from one side, the testosterone levels rose to such heights that the aggrieved one found it necessary to relocate to the new pasture, where a platform was provided for the exacting of self-seeking revenge in a bid to decimate the already disheveled NDC. All this time, the old nastiness, being the gamester he has always been known to be, we could be sure was saying to his inner circle, of course, we will include him, yes. Make him believe he will succeed me in the leadership position, but not a damn thing for him. It just sounds like the old nastiness, doesn't it? Who is known to be no damn good and no damn good long. You see, this shocking loss on June 23rd, 2022 appeared to be fertile ground for the tomfooled new entrant to assert himself as if to take over in truth. But would he end up finding himself in no man's land? That's $1 million question. You see, folks, considering the failure of the old nastiness at winning the last general election, which he called almost a year too early, while taking the mood of the country for granted and misreading the attractiveness of the NDC's spanking new leader, Deacon Mitchell, a successful corporate lawyer, to the youthful population was interpreted to be the opportunity to the easily tomfooled one was waiting for. You see? We lose. People are vexed because we had a good few months to go. The election was not well timed. Blah, blah, blah. So this is my time. But folks, this was not to be. As the old nastiness in his quest to not bring to life Blaze's prediction that what goes around comes around would not allow him. This one whose opinion of himself was that of the chosen one, or any other among his ranks, got to find out that none is duly qualified to succeed the old nastiness after all. Isn't that interesting? None. After all, we saw a common trend in the level of candidates, the backgrounds, the level the old nastiness chose over the years. People with nothing who would be wholly and solely dependent on him, and who by virtue of eternal gratitude for being taken from Dongdae would be totally loyal for their meteoric rise to prominence, and by extension, their exposure to what has become their mismanaged fortunes. We also saw what happened to certain members of the hierarchy who thought they were in thing, and who, just by hinting that they should seek new leadership of the National Nasty Party, headed by that old nastiness, since he is spent and irrelevant, they felt his wrath. They got excluded from the Senate. They got put out to pasture, and threats started to pour in via the vitriol they all witnessed. Their colleague, Mrs. Delma Thomas, was put through by that old nastiness and his wench of a faceless, nameless monster via social media. That has served to beat the rest into submission, while it was the biggest indication to date for the one who thought he could really succeed that old nastiness to realize that he's not on the old nastiness's radar for succession at all. Folks, the revelations of Mrs. Delma Thomas as to the treatment meted out to her on account of her willingness to stand up for herself against the old nastiness and his wench of a faceless, nameless monster have actually dealt a serious blow to him, to the point where he was able to be clearly seen through that terrible experience of Mrs. Thomas that he really ain't good, and he ain't good long. Folks, I know what I say is incontrovertible, because a member of his inner circle who claims to admire my brawn to take him on recently in private, on a private and confidential conversation, advised me that many of them are glad that a man like me is brave enough to expose him for who he really is, so the nation would see how much he does not deserve any positive place in our history. You know what that man tell me? He said, privately we'll be laughing because he's really an old nastiness in truth, you know. I only had to laugh. To quote him, listen to this. We are hoping on your efforts that a proper successor would be found during the next convention, so he could go into retirement and the party could bid him good riddance once and for all. Folks, I was a little shocked at this endorsement, especially from a member of what the old nastiness would like to feel is a team close to him and supportive of him. Goodly folks, I can give you some really inside scoop regarding activities of the old nastiness and his goons to make sure Blaze's prophecy does not come to pass and that he can retain leadership of the party until he goes to his grave. Interestingly, he can't stop 6 runs because the man he is spending all his time trying to marginalize from succession is way ahead of him, to the point if the convention is called at any time, the old nastiness is a disgraced goner and will fulfill Blaze's prophecy. What goes around comes around indeed. You see, just like in the United States, when Donald Trump was running for president the first time around, Americans, even some of our Caribbean people, got to realize that they should not let people know that they supported him, because people were running them down for supporting him, that idiot. Are you aware that the same is happening within the National Nasty Party today? Many delegates are getting silent in letting their sentiments become known for fear that they feel the wrath of the old nastiness, similarly to Mrs. Delma Thomas. So their silence is taken as support, when in truth and in fact, they are privately supportive of change in the leadership of the party. For good reason, the challenger is remaining silent, while he can be seen all over the island campaigning, as if he were campaigning to be prime minister, and is reported to be getting real traction from delegates. I understand the 2 St. Patrick's constituencies are squarely in the challenger's court, while at least 3 in St. Andrew are certain, with the other 1 on the margins. Carriacou is not happy with the deceptive treatment meted out to its last elected representative and is collectively acid with the old nastiness. So that's another one that is in the challenger's court. A majority of former MPs are going through the motion with the old nastiness, who is actually taking them for granted, when in truth and in fact, one of them was on record as having said, "Now tell me something, where the hell we would be going with this old man in 2026? When the NDC has this youthful leader that the young people of Grenada would have by next election got accustomed to. He had to go, man. We must give him the surprise of his life so he could enjoy his deserved retirement that we must force him to take." That's the end of the quote, folks. And if all you know who said that, you all will be shocked. Some of you will get stroke. You would also be confirmed like me in your knowledge of how hypocritical and dangerous our people can be. One stalwart said in relation to the 4-man committee formed in an attempt to stop the one brave enough to think he could challenge the old nastiness on account of his huge lead over the old nastiness in all constituencies in terms of delegates. But you know, these 4, one happens to be the woman, the old nastiness referred to as wishy-washy. The other person, I believe, is the second most corrupt man that ever graced our political stage with his presence. Another is a known victim of the NDC who continues to suffer from his devastating loss, who's always out front, defending the indefensible. And of course, Wood for Wood, one who is known for his support for change in the leadership of the party. But all you're listening to me, or Bong, you're big, and you have sense. So you know who these four are. Could you imagine the challenger has been told he is dividing the party? If that is not a sign of panic, you tell me what else is. You see, there are signs that they are not as organized as the challenger, who has a savvy team handling his nationwide campaign, coupled with his access to serious funds. From all appearances, the old nastiness has lost total grip of the party and is a lonely man. Even the 4-member team he handpicked to meet with this main challenger, even them and all are behind his back saying his time is really done in truth, because they notice that people ain't buying what he's selling. The challenger has, up to this date, the most delegates in his favor. And as an executive member says, the ground is for him to lead the party and restore it to the new national party status and divorce it completely from the national nasty party that the old nastiness has reduced it to. Folks, there is momentum, and it is on the challenger's side. Imagine a perpetual loser whose attempts at addressing meetings prove him terribly wanting in being able to string 10 words together with an extremely poor tonal quality, making him totally uninteresting to listen to. Disagreeable, what you call an assault on the airs. Has no political presence in the constituency that he lost, of course, in. Is actually saying the challenger is making his work hard on the ground. Folks, a ball when I hear that. You all remember that saying? You ought to laugh, you know. Circumstance does not change responsibility. It is because that one will not take responsibility for his inadequacies and insufficiencies and has this false high opinion of himself that he is in the circumstance of a perpetual loser. I was told the old nastiness may have gone to a village or community way in the north. And in a meeting with a little more than a handful of supporters, demanded their whole delegate selection. When he was told they are not financial and paid up members, which is a requirement according to the party's constitution, they were allegedly told, don't bother about being financial, man, just have the election. That sounds like the old nastiness intruder. The second most corrupt individual in the history of our local politics is alleged to have told the challenger in a meeting that he is hindering new leadership from coming forward. That has got to be laughable. My big question here is, how can we ever think as a people, nationally that is, of tolerating anyone in our national democratic system who encourages supporters of their own organization to despise anyone who expresses interest in running for the leadership of that organization, that the seed of leadership is open for. Folks, all you had to bounce all your head, you all had to belong to the crazy house and you escaped to be supporting an old nastiness like that. What kind of organization is that? It is quite obviously an organization that is no damn good. The level of hypocrisy, that level of hypocrisy, folks, must leak over into the national arena if any such person is given a chance to ever lead our country again. Do you remember how they run our country for the period 1995 to 2022 for the most part, as if it were their private fiefdom? Something has got to be wrong with all who have sense, any iota of sense, and insist on supporting this old nastiness and his national nasty party. Shame on all of you. Some of the close supporters of the old nastiness are out there saying they will expel the challenger. That has to be a real nasty cult, in truth. Anyhow, enough on the old nastiness and all his inferior outer timing followers and stupidness. Just remember, circumstance does not change responsibility. Let's just take a little break here and we'll come back for the last.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This has been Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper healthcare and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Attention.
Right. We'll take a... I realize I played the wrong thing, but it's quite okay. I played something. So let's just come right back to it. Folks, our topic today, circumstance does not change responsibility. Just before I take off today, I want to change gears here a bit to address the immediate reaction to all and sundry regarding the exclusion of Member of Parliament Ron Redhead from the Cabinet of Ministers of the Deacon Mitchell-led administration as a result of the most recent ministerial reassignment, that process, cabinet reshuffle, so to speak. The official reason provided is well known, yet detractors insist on presenting other reasons for his exclusion that they all celebrate based on, of course, their vivid imagination. Elected Member of Parliament Ron Redhead has been encouraged by colleagues and even otherwise, other people, to resume his studies to complete his first degree. Something he thought long and hard about, and even though elected to the Parliament handsomely in 2022, he's finally convinced himself that he will take a sabbatical and do what he must so that he can gain the necessary qualifications to match wits and intelligence with others in whatever ministry he has been put to lead, because he's convinced that education is the way to go. If he were to be, consummate his interest in politics for the long haul. Folks, we've seen a lot of comments about, but he could have well do that online, Folks, there are people who don't believe in online studies. There are people who want to be old-fashioned. You don't know what his circumstances are based on him having started his degree before. And in rejoining now, he prefers to be in a classroom. That is his right. A lot of you who have your master's degree that you do online, better you to do it online, the clothesline in the backyard, because some of you so goddamn dunce and dotish that it doesn't make a difference. Your master's degree does not manifest itself in your common sense. Because you know what? Common sense is a flower that does not bloom in everybody's garden. Hello? So give the man a break. If he wants to do and continue and resume his degree at the university physically, that is his prerogative. It is his right. Hello? That's the message I want to send here today. So, you see, but because education is frowned upon by the multitudes whose only qualification to be permanently placed on the vote farm of the old nastiness is to be poor, dunce, and vulnerable, they cannot accept that a man will make such a decision in his own interest. This is not surprising at all. Imagine I saw a teacher who mentioned, I go give up making all this money per month and say I go in and study. There must be something more behind that, boy. You see why I say people like me, people like us who have grown children, should celebrate not having any little children for these numbskulls to teach? You realize how serious I am when I make that kind of blunt statement? Is that a real teacher talking? Or somebody who working as a teacher? Hello? There's a difference, you know, because teaching is a vocation. And teachers understand people's thinking and reasoning. You see, folks, all the feedback in the public sphere, especially the plethora of negatives coming from all around aimed at MP Ron Redhead, must be noted by him with a view to him using his time outside of ministerial politics to reinvent himself. He needs to revisit himself. So when he comes again, we experience a new and desirably more mature Ron Redhead. None, absolutely none of the negative sentiments shared on him in light of this new change, he should ignore. If he allows himself to be bogged down by short man syndrome with an ego larger than his own life, he will surely be the loser for it. Ron, you're advised to turn your scars into stars. Rise again after your anticipated success at completing your academic degree. Use some of your downtime to mend fences with anyone you may have offended, or better put, pissed to hell off in your constituency or even nationally, so your numbers could increase instead of decrease, as many people seem to think is evident in your case. You have the time to do it, so go out and get it done. Failure to take this simple advice into consideration while you reflect and inflect may lead you to be one to be replaced as a candidate next time around. I know there are many people on the unofficial NDC pushback crew who are standing in wait to advise on the 3rd anniversary of NDC assuming office. Who are the candidates to be replaced? And so far, there are, in my opinion, just around 5 in that category, looking very much like they're in line for due replacement. If they don't change, I can see members of this pushback crew publicly calling their names either, I mean, I am one. Just put me down as one. Because you realize, me don't care what nobody say, and I don't care what you think. If you're in politics, stop flamming. Politics is not for flamming. Politics is for serious work. We have a nation to build, well, rebuild after the nastiness, the old nastiness, decimated the country and bring it down to zero, right down in the lolly drain. We have a lot of work to do. This is no time for flamming. I can see, as I say, members of this pushback crew publicly calling their names earlier than the 3rd-year mark. I, for one, will join that brigade, because this nonsense of people becoming swell-headed with a little power loaned to them is really a lot of crap. That is the behavior you get from people who do not have a larger vision of themselves and suffer from a lack of self-confidence and positive and proper self-awareness. They need a position to be somebody. Look at the experience of the old nastiness while out of office. Nobody taking he on. He operates like a hind out of water, totally status starved. The example is there for you to see that the fuss people make when you are in office is not about you, it's about the office. The quicker some of you learn this, is the better for all of you. Humble yourselves like the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell does, and Andy Williams, and get to work. It is quite all right for us to aspire to something good in life, to reach a higher standard than we ever thought possible for ourselves, based on where we are coming from. Rising to the top and then behaving totally out of touch to reach back and down to bring others up with us is nothing but what you call a poverty mindset. For all the high school dropouts, people who have become homeless or on the verge of homelessness, becoming pregnant while in school, it doesn't make a difference where you come from, folks. What makes a difference is when you commit yourself to becoming somebody and you remain true to yourself, even though you may have set boundaries and high fences. What makes a difference is that you become one of the 1%, a rare kind indeed. Folks, I'm in, I'm out, and I am gone. I want to thank you for joining. Continue to share. See you next week, God willing, for more extraordinary programming. Until then, I want you to stay safe. COVID is still around. Stay well. Remain vigilant and lifted. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Just type in my name, Edward or Eddie Frederick. Subscribe, like, share, and be prepared to receive your mental multivitamins as straight up as I deliver them, folks. Happy New Year again to you, one and all. May 2024 be the year you take your health more seriously, so together we can bring our national life expectancy to 70 years and over. Study your heads, folks. Have a great, great one. Don't get it twisted. Have a great one. Cheers.
And all forward-thinking companies, sure you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all. Eddie Frederick has